Hi, everyone. I'm Anu, Director of School Services here at Liricare, and I'm really glad you're here with us today. At Liricare, everything that we build, from flexible options to our digital marketplace, is about supporting therapists in real, practical ways. We believe your work deserves better tools, more freedom, and a community that really gets it. And today, we're lucky to hear from someone who's living that mission every day. Welcome, Michelle.
Hi, thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Michelle's been a bilingual speech language pathologist for nearly 20 years. She's helped so many multilingual students find their voices, and she's a real champion for helping SLP feel confident working with diverse population. On top of that, she's one of the first people to share her incredible therapy materials on our digital marketplace. So today, we're chatting about her journey, what creating and sharing resources has meant for her, and how platforms like Liricare can open new doors for therapists. Michelle, thank you for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So you are a real life therapist, correct?
I
You do
am, I
this
am.
day in and day out for 20 years on there. So I'm really pleased that you're with us because you can share some really great information that can help everyone from beginning career to the middle career on there. So to start off, Michelle, could you start by sharing a little about your journey into speech language pathology and what pulled you toward working with bilingual learners?
Yeah, so my journey into speech pathology was a wavy one. It took me a while to get here. It wasn't always what I thought I wanted to do. I had many other career aspirations: marine biologist, interior decorator. I always loved being with kids. I was a babysitter. I was a camp counselor. And I come from a multilingual home. Spanish was my first language. It's the language we speak at home. And I'm also Jewish, so we go to religious schools, so Hebrew is in there too. And when I was 13, I got a younger brother, and he was having trouble speaking. And somebody told my mom that he was confused, and because he went to the Jewish day school and we spoke Spanish at home, that was the reason he wasn't talking. And so I definitely saw firsthand how that impacted my family. She pulled him out of religious school. She pulled him, she started speaking English at home. And my brother had an articulation delay, which we later found out was autism. But 2 years later, I'm driving him to all his therapies. And when I wasn't sure what to study, one day I was like, oh, well, I keep taking Danny to therapy. Maybe I can study that. And I took my first phonetics class. I loved it. And I never looked back.
Wow, that is a really inspiring story on there. And, such motivating issues on there that this really is close to your heart and it connects with, family and making a difference on there. So I appreciate you sharing your story with that. That means quite a bit on there. So you've worked with so many different student populations. What keeps you inspired and excited about this work after nearly 20 years? 20 years is a long time. So what
I know,
keeps,
you're making me feel old.
well, I'm older, so, 20 years young for me on there. But all those years of experience, what keeps you, motivated?
Gosh, it's first of all, I really love what I do. People always say, if you, do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life. I truly love what I do. There are days I don't, but most days I am excited. My family jokes that I blow bubbles for a living, and I'm okay with that. I'm a pediatric SLP, and I do love kids. I love working with the families. And really, the position that I'm in as a bilingual, there's not that many of us. So I kind of feel this like, I don't know, like I need to use my talent, right? The fact that I speak two languages, to help as many kids as I can, as many families as I can. And so I guess my own past history is kind of what propelled me to keep going because I want to help as many bilingual kiddos as I can. Um, and I truly do love speech therapy.
Hmm. And what makes you very unique is when I was doing research on this, that only 8% of speech therapists are bilingual on there. So that's amazing on there that there's so few speech therapists on there. So I'm hoping today you inspire future speech therapists to become bilingual on there and really make a big impact on their students on there.
Something
So
sad, Anu, I'm going to tell you. You know what the statistic was when I graduated?
what was that?
4%. So we
That's
have not moved the
4%
needle
to
much.
8%. Wow. Okay.
In 18 years. It's not a big move.
Right.
And I don't know, I don't think it's all lack of motivation. I do think that graduate programs put a lot of barriers in place for minorities. Speech pathology as a field is like 90 something percent white and female. And there's a lot of barriers for minorities, not just Hispanics, that don't let them get through grad school and into the position that I'm in.
Well, definitely you speak to that and how to overcome barriers on there with your story there. So I appreciate you sharing that because it is a challenge. And I think what it requires is a systematic change of sort of focus on there. And that's not easy to do. But I think one step at a time, and what you're doing is definitely helping that on there. So I appreciate you sharing that on there. So you also, I mean, you do a lot of things. I mean, just as you mentioned on there, I, I don't know how you keep up with all this here, but you also create materials that you share with therapists on there. So tell me a little bit about what motivated you to do that, because not every speech therapist feels real comfortable about sharing their resources out to the masses.
Yeah, so I saw the need for quality Spanish materials from the get-go. When I exited graduate school and inherited an entire bilingual caseload, which was mostly Spanish speakers, all the big companies didn't really have good stuff out there. It was like they took a dictionary and translated it. And there's 29 countries that speak Spanish, so there's a variety of dialects, and not every word works. So I remember my first year out, I was like with note cards and cutting out pictures, making my own index cards. So, I didn't get fancy until way later, but I was always making my own cards because I didn't like what was out there. And if I bring us to now, I always want to share what I have because I want to help somebody else. My viewpoint is I'm here to lift you up as I climb. So anyone out there who's a student, anyone who reaches out to me on social media, if anyone who knows me knows that, like, if I can help you out, I will, because we're in a conundrum. 1 in 5 kids in the United States speak a language other than English. I only speak one other language, Spanish, but there are others. There's Amharic, there's French, there's Mandarin. So I can't help everyone, but I can empower others to feel comfortable working with bilinguals, and others who maybe don't find it fun to create TikTok boards with articulation words like I do. Happy to share because they're just words, and it's just the more we share, the better we can all be.
I just love that, and your confidence on there, that confidence is what really makes a difference on there. You said, why not me? I can do it. And you did it on there. So, that's remarkable there. So you recently started posting some of your resources on Liricare's digital marketplace. What made you say, okay, let's give this a shot?
Well, kind of like the last question, I'm all about spreading the knowledge. If anybody finds my resources to be useful, then why not? And Liricare is something I've been, in your network for over a year, and a lot of fellow colleagues that I know are posting on Liricare. So I just saw it as another avenue that that could help me get my products out there into the hands of someone who might need them.
Wonderful, wonderful. So can you, since you've experienced that on there, can you walk us through what the experience was like getting your first resources uploaded? And you are much more tech savvy than I am. So I will definitely say that on there. So as a tech-savvy speech therapist, how did you find the experience, and what would you tell the audience?
I thought it was very easy. So I've been listing on Boom Learning and Teachers Pay Teachers since 2020. So I'm used to having to put up a descriptor and uploading. I did find it a lot easier than in other platforms. Some other platforms you need like a preview and then like a cover and then like multiple pictures of the product or even a video. And I found your interface to be really easy, user friendly. I was able to really easily take products that I've already created and have in other platforms and just upload them. So I found the process really easy, and I'm hoping to slowly add more and more products in there because it's very user friendly. I don't think I need to watch YouTube videos to learn how to do it like I did for Boom Learning and Teachers Pay Teachers. I learned via YouTube how to do that.
Gotcha. Okay, so that's interesting that there wasn't a lot of hurdles regarding that on there. So we do have a lot of therapists on our platform, and they're very hesitant to create tools and things like that. So what advice would you give someone who's got a great idea, they use it in their classroom, but they're not sure whether it's ready for prime time or not on there? What would you tell them?
I would tell them, you just gotta get on that ship. You don't know where it's gonna sail, but you're not gonna get anywhere until you get on that ship. I would say learn. The first thing that I would say is find out copyright in terms of what images you can use. So there's a lot of really creative people who create clip art, and you can pay for a commercial license. That's what I do. That way I know that I'm not going to get in trouble for any images I use. Look at what other people are doing and, learn from them. So I have the first page of all my resources say what you can and cannot do, what is and isn't copyrighted. You can, create your own logo, like that's mine right there. So anything that I create, I put my logo, the bottom right. Canva is fantastic. You can do a lot of things on Canva, and you can flatten things. If you do a PDF and you flatten, which you can do on Canva, then it's not so easy for someone to copy your product. So I say, get on there, give it a try, maybe start out with some free things so you can see, do people like what you're putting out there? But you'll never know unless you try.
Gotcha. And now I've learned something new about flatten. I had no idea, but now I have a better idea of that. So appreciate you sharing that on there. So you've done this for a while now. So one question I would ask is, do you edit and update your stuff based on feedback that you get from other therapists? Like, does it have to be perfect before they post it, or do you do updates on there?
I do updates all the time. And one of my first pages, along with what you can and cannot do, is my personal email. And I say, if you find a mistake, please email me directly so that I can fix it. It doesn't have to be perfect, but like you definitely don't want to misspell a word, especially for doing targeting language. Definitely make sure or try your best. I always change based on feedback, and I also update like once a year. A lot of the things I do are like thematic units. So like right now I'm looking at all my summer things, and I'm looking at how it was last year, updating pictures or creating new games. So I'm always updating my products every year. The summer seems to be a really good time to do that because a lot of therapists are off in the summer. Well, a lot of therapists who buy from me are school-based therapists. So in the summer, it's slower. I take that as my time to look through all my products, see what should still be on, what shouldn't be on, and update. So always update and create as I go. But you just gotta try. It doesn't have to be, really complicated. Just make what would work for you. Because if it works for you, it'll probably work for another speech path.
Do you think this process helps you sort of stay fresh and engaging with the materials that you do in the classroom on there? Does that help?
Yeah. So my day job, all I do is evaluations and IEPs. So for, gosh, I think I'm 13, 14 years. That's all I've been doing. So this actually like helps me feel connected to therapy. So by creating the speech therapy materials, I try them out on all my friends' kids to make sure that it's a good game to play. But that's kind of what feeds my whole of I'm no longer giving therapy. I'm only doing diagnostics. And I think that that's what propels me to keep going because it's like, oh, I would have wanted to have this. Let me create it. Let me try it out on my friends' kids, see what they think, see what I should change.
Right. It's really a way of paying it forward on there and helping, especially people just starting in the career, moving up on there. So,
Yeah, or even students who are in graduate school, like some graduate programs just throw you to the wolves and they're like, here's the kid, give him
right.
therapy. I'll be watching you from the screen. So definitely I try to keep my price points low so that a lot of people can get things. I usually have one free product every season so that you can see the quality of my work. And so that if you're a student with no money, you can do that. You can
Right.
easily start building your library of resources.
That is a great strategy. I appreciate you sharing that. Now, before we go to the next part of our conversation, I just want to quickly say if you're listening, audience members, today and thinking about all the resources you've created for your own students or for clients, you're not alone. Part of why we built Digital Marketplace at Liricare was to make it easy for therapists to share those materials without jumping through hoops and giving up huge commissions on there. So that's one of our big advantages. Our commission is very low, 4%, I think, on there, which is extremely low for platforms on there. So if you're curious, go check us out at lyricare.com. And now let's get back to asking Michelle more questions for the hot seat there. So beyond just uploading resources, Lyricare also offers AI tools on there. Any advice that you would have? Before I get to that, paperwork. So this AI tool makes reduce paperwork time on there. How much do you, Michelle, love doing paperwork?
Zero. I
Zero.
hate
Okay.
report writing.
So if there was a tool that could help reduce that, you would sign up for that, right?
100%. Yeah, I actually am going to find a way to see if Liricare can help shorten my report writing time because a lot of the things we write are very redundant. Um, and so if there's a way to make my report writing a lot shorter, I will sign up because my reports are 8 to 12 pages long. Um, so I'll take any help.
Gotcha. So with Lyricare, we provide lots of opportunities for speech therapists to share information on there and sort of collaborate and help each other out kind of thing on there. What, if you could give an advice to your younger self in the career that you are in now for 20 years, what would you tell yourself? What advice would you
You
give?
don't have to be perfect. I think that I very much was a perfectionist starting out, and I spent way too much time going above and beyond. Like I used to write all of my reports in English, and then I'd be really disappointed that my families wouldn't be able to read it because they're all Spanish speakers. So then I would translate my entire report into Spanish. And that's like a lot. It's a lot of work. So definitely, once you get out of grad school, it's okay to be normal. You don't have to be perfect. A lot of us SLPs are very type A and we want, everything to be inside the lines, colorful, shiny. But it's okay for it to not be that way. That's what I would tell my younger self, to not sweat those details as much as I did.
Hmm. Wonderful tip for beginning SLPs on there because, as you know, the journey is long and there are a lot of bumps and bruises, but we help each other out, and that's what it's all about. We're in a helping profession on there, and so not being too hard on yourself is great advice. So we've looked back. Now we're going to look into the future. You ready to look into the crystal ball?
I'm ready for it.
All right, so looking ahead, what excites you the most about the future of speech language pathology, especially when it comes to supporting diverse students and new professionals?
I find AI, to be both scary and fascinating. And so I'm very interested in how we can use AI for, um, alongside with our knowledge to kind of um, streamline our process. For example, if I'm listening to a student who stuttered, sometimes I have to go back and count how many syllables. How great would it be if AI could be my support for that? Or if I'm doing a language sample, instead of having to go back and listen to an articulation that a child did. I would love for, us to harness the AI for good and to support us on the things that sometimes we have to, do multiple times because we're human, and see if we can get a computer to um, get us out there faster. And so that's kind of where I see the future. I also think that telehealth, COVID, although it was awfully difficult, has taught us that we can give a lot of services through telehealth. And I think that helps the most for like families who live far away, right? People who are in really remote neighborhoods that maybe can't get to therapy twice a week, but they can log on their computer. And so I do see more leaning on technology for good in our field in the future.
Interesting. What's your thought about the shortage of speech therapists on there? When you talk about like, especially access to therapists, if you live in a remote area on there just isn't that many speech therapists, and teletherapy definitely helps on there. If you were in charge of the world, Michelle, how would you address the issue of speech therapy shortage?
I would do a massive reorganization of how our master's programs are. I think that is a huge barrier. So I'll speak in terms of my university. I went to University of South Florida. I will say that my undergraduate class, we graduated about 300 people, and only 60 people got into graduate school. There were only 60 spots, and we were one of the big graduate programs. Some only let 30 people. And so we need, there's a shortage, but it's also a barrier, you can't be a speech pathologist without having your master's. Master's programs are really competitive and have very few spots, and put a lot of barriers for those who come from diverse backgrounds, dual language learners, minorities, the cost of going through graduate school. So I would try to find another way to redo graduate programs, and then also to destigmatize speech pathology assistants. We do have some places where you can be a speech pathology assistant with just a bachelor's, but there is a stigma about it. And if I had my magic wand, I would want to destigmatize that, and make it get more accessible and available in other places so that we can still help the kids, because the kids with needs are only increasing, not decreasing.
Absolutely on there. And I'm not sure where the time goes, but our time has just flown by. We've got another 5 minutes or 4 minutes left on here. What are some other things that you'd like to share with our audience? You've been quite an inspiring story there, and we really appreciate all that you do on Liricare, and want to encourage you to keep doing that and helping the field. But anything else that you want to share? The platform is yours.
Well, definitely, hopefully you can share the way to contact me. Anybody who reaches out, I do my best to get back to you. So please do reach out if you have any questions. Definitely don't be afraid of working with multilinguals. To me, the numbers just don't match up. The number of kids who need support who come from diverse language learning homes and the number of bilingual service providers, they just don't match up. And there's too many languages. So really, I would love to support anyone becoming more comfortable working with interpreters, and working with children who are from a different background than their own. There were a lot of teachings that there were about DEI, but actually doing it, sometimes it's hard to apply. And I'm more than happy to chat with anyone. What else? Lean on ASHA. I think that recently it's been getting some negative press, but I do believe that they're a large organization, but they're trying their best. Go to conferences, come to Washington, D.C. It's the 100th anniversary of ASHA this year. It's the weekend before Thanksgiving, so November something. I'll be there. I'll be at the opening session. Come up, say hello to me. I'm lucky enough to put together the pre-convention. I know, Anu. I do all the things. I know. So come to ASHA this year if you can in Washington, D.C., or whenever the ASHA convention comes to where you are. Try to go, try to network. You're not alone. Meet somebody else who can, be your ally, because I wish I had had that when I was younger. So now I try to be that. I try to be the connection and the mentor I wish I would have had when I felt so lonely in graduate school or just coming out of school.
Gotcha. Well, I'm definitely planning to be there. I'm going to do a road trip to DC on there, so it's not too far away. And so it'd be a great opportunity for us to meet face to face.
I would love that.
So that would be a nice treat, and to get to hear about all the other things that you do, because we could have easily spent an hour and a half on just talking about different things that you do on there. You wear lots of different hats on there. And so we appreciate all that you do. We can definitely find you on Liricare.com, and we'll also share your contact information. So I encourage our audience members, if you have additional questions, reach out to Michelle. Michelle is a very caring person and wants to help with the profession. So I'm sure she'll make the time to address any questions that you have. So thank you again, and everybody have a wonderful day.
Bye.